by the previous Conservative government in 1996 to disincentivise landfill, encouraging the switch to more sustainable waste management. It's worked. The amount of waste going to landfill has decreased by over 50%. Household recycling has increased by 70%. But a consequence of this and its benefits has been to increase the attractiveness of the waste industry to organised crime because of the incentives that landfill tax creates. And we know there are very few barriers to entry in this business. Landfill tax fraud often consists of falsifying paperwork relating to the classification of waste in order to pay less or zero tax. For example, labelling active waste as inactive or hazardous waste as non-hazardous. And organised crime groups and repeat offenders can deliberately routinely evade significant amounts of landfill tax by misdescribing waste. To illustrate the problem, from April 2021, the inactive rate of waste is only £3.10 per tonne. The standard rate is £96.70 per tonne. And at scale, that differential of nearly £100 a tonne results in enormous profits for the businesses involved. Businesses which routinely mislabel waste can rack up millions of pounds in illegitimate profits, robbing HMRC of an estimated £120 million a year. And I believe the current regulatory regime is inadequate in the face of such incentives. Compounding the problem, there appears to be insufficient scrutiny applied both to the operations and the accounts of those companies regularly declaring high levels of inert, i.e. the £3 a tonne landfilling. And this is not merely an economic crime again. This fraudulent misdescription can cause significant impacts for the environment, for wildlife, for the communities. Major air quality incidents can be caused by misdescribed waste containing plasterboard or other high sulphate waste entering landfills that lack the specialist measures required. If hazardous waste is misdescribed as non-hazardous, this could have a very significant impact on the health of people and the local environment. And this has direct bearing on the situation at Wally's Quarry. In evidence presented as part of that recent Court of Appeal case, Richards v. the EA, a representative of the EA explained that the increased level of hydrogen sulphide, the eggy smell, coming from Wally's Quarry landfill was most likely the result of gypsum-containing high sulphate waste being deposited in that landfill, contrary to the permit. Now, this can only have occurred as a result of some part of the waste chain mislabelling that waste or it not being properly separated from other waste. So I think we either have fraud or negligence somewhere in the chain. However, several people have contacted me to make specific allegations about illegal activities at Wally's Quarry landfill. I will, of course, keep them all anonymous, and I'm aware that we need to follow due process because there's an ongoing criminal investigation into these allegations, but I am keen to get some of the longest-standing best evidence allegations on the record, some of which I and the Environment Agency have been aware of for nearly 12 months. The EA informed me that any investigation might take multiple years. Well, I feel that my constituents deserve to know the true scale and the nature of the problems that have been reported to me. In February last year, I was contacted by an anonymous individual who alleged that the current operator was using the site to bury hazardous waste outside its agreed permit. I was told this increased dramatically during lockdown, a period during which the EA ceased many of its normal activities. And employees were named, I won't name them here, who would have been involved in this activity. And the order to bury these hazardous wastes, according to the anonymous source, came directly from Mr. Adam Sher, who is the company's CEO and owner, from Mr. Nigel Bowen, the company managing director, and from Mr. John Clues, who is the company technical director. There have been other, less specific allegations too from multiple other sources. I've had many whistleblowers come to me. I've passed them all on to the Environment Agency. The House may also be aware that on the 6th of January this year, I raised concerns about so-called lawfare in the Chamber in the debate led by my right honourable friend here, and I referred to the attempts by The Guardian to publish an article about Wally's Quarry. I've been aware since November 2021 that they have been attempting to publish a story about the true scale of the issues at Wally's Quarry in my constituency, based on insider testimony of whistleblowers backed up by emails from within the company, and have thus far been prevented from publishing due to the legal threats made by Red Industries against the newspaper. And with the permission of Rachel Salvage, a journalist who has the courage to pursue this story in the public interest, I will read directly her words, the allegations she has been seeking to publish. Quote, hazardous waste, including arsenic, rat poison and zinc, has been tipped at a Newcastle-under-Lyme landfill, which is now the subject of a criminal investigation. The Guardian has seen internal emails discussing the practice at Red Industries, the operator at Wally's Quarry. A whistleblower, a former senior executive at Red, has alleged widespread illegal behaviour at the firm and has accused the regulator, the Environment Agency, of, quote, being asleep at the wheel. The whistleblower has provided the Guardian with emails that appear to show hazardous material is routinely dumped at Wally's to save the company's money. In October 2019, Red's compliance officer emailed colleagues about a shipment of cavity wax from a car manufacturer. Quote, is this for ATM or do we have another route in mind? End quote. This cavity wax is hazardous and organic and should be shipped overseas to a company called ATM in Holland, which breaks it down into safer waste, but this process is expensive. In the emails, Red's group commercial manager replies, quote, Wally's TFS, end quote. According to the whistleblower, this is an internal code for sending hazardous waste to Wally's that should be safely shipped overseas. As a result, the former senior executive said the cavity wax was secretly dumped at the landfill. Another email refers to, quote, everyone's favourite Wally's TFS route, end quote, for the cavity wax. The manufacturer of this cavity wax warns the material is, quote, toxic in contact with skin and, quote, toxic if inhaled. Dr. Cecilia MacLeod, an expert in contaminated land from the University of Greenwich, said exposure to components in the wax, quotes, can cause issues with development and can also cause dermatitis and breathing difficulties, end quote. Continuing the article. In July 2020, the group commercial manager emailed colleagues about a waste shipment of spent bullets containing hazardous levels of arsenic and zinc. Quote, what do you reckon to this shit show of material? Sounds like a Wash and Wally's TFS to me, end quote. Again, the whistleblower says, using the internal code Wally's TFS to divert the hazardous waste to Wally's landfill. Another email chain discusses a large shipment of rat poison. A Red employee asked, quote, are you able to accept this to landfill or would it not be suitable, end quote. Their manager responded, quote, work your magic, end quote, and the shipment was sent to Wally's landfill, the former senior executive said. The rodenticide is highly toxic as it can be fatal if swallowed, breathed in or if it comes into contact with skin. Continuing, a former Red employee told The Guardian, quote, we used to take advantage of the fact that the EA was stupid. It's not difficult. When the EA came to inspect, we didn't worry. We just made sure that all the stickers looked nice. They weren't chemists, so you could always hide things, end quote. Only solid waste is permitted at Wally's landfill, but The Guardian has seen evidence that Red has also been tipping hazardous paint. In July 2020, a Red compliance officer emailed colleagues about a, quote, paint route. The shipment was, quote, coming as has, and they're priced £200 a tonne. We haven't got the money for any TFS, end quote. The former senior executive told The Guardian, quote, this material is hazardous, so Wally's would not be permitted to accept it, but in reality this is where the paint tins are going, end quote. The manufacturer of this paint warns, quote, this product is classified as dangerous. Exposure to component sulfur vapour concentrations may result in respiratory system irritation and adverse effects on the kidneys, liver and central nervous system, end quote. A former Red subcontractor was also told The Guardian how paint was concealed in unlegitimate material. Quotes, they'd mix it with cement to try and thicken it up and load it into a skip and tip it like that, end quote. MacLeod described the pollutants as, quotes, a horrible cocktail and said that Red might think that mixing paint with cement would stabilise and solidify it, quotes, but not all volatile organic compounds get locked up. They're still there and you'll have respiratory problems if you take these things in. A former senior executive at Red sent some of these emails to the Environment Agency in May 2021, along with testimony of Red's alleged law breaking. In December, the EA announced a criminal investigation into Red. End quote, and I thank Rachel Salvage for providing me with that information. Investigations of the public record show examples from staff from Red Industries demanding the wording of compliance assessment reforms issued by the EA is changed, and the EA acquiescing. To paraphrase my constituent, Dr. Michael Salt, who's a nuclear scientist but has volunteered a significant amount of time to the Stop the Stink campaign, if I said the same thing to the Office of Nuclear Regulation, they'd have something to say about it. The EA are a regulator with no teeth, who inspire no fear, and whom I cannot have confidence. There is clearly serious failures here, which the EA need to account for. And in light of these revelations, I must ask that the operator's permit is suspended while these allegations are fully investigated. The EA's current approach has not worked. If the only explanation they can find for why we are once again seeing so many exceedances of the World Health Organisation odour annoyance limits is the cold weather. And if there are such serious issues with the handling of such a sensitive case, how can anyone have confidence they're handling more routine cases appropriately? Another area the Wally's Quarry experience has taught me needs reform is in the bonds that these permitted operators must hold, which are staggeringly insufficient in the eventuality an operator walks away from a landfill or goes bust. I'm aware many constituents are joining a class action against Wally's Quarry. If that's successful, it would almost certainly make the company go bust, and there's not sufficient bond to account for that.